Hi, my name is Ben, and I'm a U.S. immigration lawyer. In this video, I discuss 7 things that you should know about the E-2 visa to help you decide if it is a good option for you and your family. Now, the first thing that you should know about the E-2 visa is that it's not available to everyone in the world. It's only available to those who are nationals of countries that have the required treaty with the United States. Now, to find this list of countries that have the proper treaty, just do a quick Google search for E-2 visa countries and the list will pop up. Now, the good news is that you'll notice that most of the major countries are included on the list. However, there are some notable exceptions. For example, Indian and Chinese nationals are unable to obtain E-2 visas. So if your country has the E-2 visa treaty with the United States, then your next step is to decide if you are in a position to be able to make a substantial investment in a business in the United States. Now, there are a couple things to note about the substantial investment requirement. First of all, you have to invest in a for-profit business. Nonprofits are fantastic for the world, but unfortunately, they do not qualify for the E-2 visa. The second thing to know is that there's no minimum investment requirement. Now, when some people hear this, they understandably get really excited and they start to think that they can just cobble together a couple $1,000s, pick up an E-2 visa, and waltz into the United States to live and run a business. Now, I agree that would be very nice, but the reality is that your investment has to be large enough to ensure the successful operation of the business. Your business also has to be large enough to employ others. These requirements usually necessitate a sizable investment. Now, most immigration lawyers will tell you that an investment of $100,000 is a good target. However, this is only going to work if the amount of money that it will take to make the business a success is close to $100,000. If you make an investment of $100,000 in a business that requires $500,000 in funding to establish, then your E-2 application will probably be denied. Now, on the other hand, if you invest $75,000 in a business that requires $75,000, then there's a good chance that your investment amount will be considered substantial. Now, if you decide that you want to make a substantial investment, it is important to understand that your investment is going to have to be at risk in order to qualify for the E-2 visa. So what does this mean? Well, I'll tell you what at risk does not mean. At risk does not mean that you just take your money and park it in a US bank account and say, there it is, there's my investment. That doesn't work. Your investment that you make has to be subject to partial or total loss. You have to have skin in the game. It has to be at risk. Otherwise, the E-2 visa is not going to work. Now, fortunately, you can oftentimes reduce your risk while still making an at-risk investment by putting a portion of your money into an escrow account. For example, if you're buying an existing business, you can make the purchase contingent upon the issuance of the E-2 visa. If the E-2 visa is granted, then your invested money is released to the seller. If the E-2 is not granted, then the money will go back to you. Another thing to keep in mind is that the US government is going to look closely at the source of your money. They're really concerned about illegal money being used to set up businesses in the United States. So they're going to closely scrutinize the origin of your money. You're going to have to trace your money back to its source to satisfy the government that the money was lawfully obtained. So in order to do this, be prepared to submit tax returns, bank statements, etc. to show where your money came from. It's also important to keep in mind that there's a marginality rule for your E-2 visa investment. And this rule basically means that your business has to do more than just support you and your family. Now, one-person lifestyle businesses are great, and they're appealing because of their simplicity. But in the E-2 visa world, they're not an option. Ideally, your business will have employees at the time that you submit your E-2 visa application. Now, if you're not in this ideal situation, don't worry too much about it. You can provide projections of the employees that you'll need and clearly show why and when they will be needed. Now, another thing to know is that a solid business plan is essential. A good business plan can really pave the way for success in the E2 area. A good plan will show you how the requirements are met, and it will articulate your vision for the business and show how you're going to make your business profitable. It provides the data that shows the decision maker why your investment is substantial. It summarizes the origin of your money. It includes a forecast of the employees that you'll need. And by providing a clear picture of how you meet the requirements, a thoughtful and detailed business plan can really go a long way in helping to pave the way to an approval. Now, the final thing that you should know about the E2 visa is that the application process varies. If you're in the United States on a valid visa, you're going to have the option of applying through USCIS. If you're out of the country, you'll likely go through the consulate to get your E2 visa. Now, you would think that all the consulates in the world would have a uniform process for the E2 visa application, but unfortunately that's not the case. They all differ on how they want the application to be submitted. For example, some consulates want you to email the application supporting documentation. Others want you to mail it in, submit a 3-ring binder. Now, there's usually a limit on the number of pages that you're allowed to submit, and those page restrictions vary depending on the consulate. So before you begin your E2 visa journey, it's important to look at the specific requirements for the consulate through which you will be applying in order to gain an understanding of the process. So those are 7 things that you should know about the E2 visa process. To summarize, you're required to have the right nationality. You have to make a substantial investment. The investment has to be at risk. Your source of funds will be closely examined. Your business has to employ or be projected to employ others. A solid business plan is essential, and the application process varies depending on where you will be submitting your application. Now, there's certainly a lot more to know about the E2 visa, and this is best accomplished by educating yourself and then sitting down or getting on the phone and talking to an immigration lawyer. Now, there are a lot of great immigration lawyers in this country that love to help entrepreneurs. And since immigration law is federal, you have the ability to hire a lawyer that's based in any state in the US. You do not have to base your choice of a lawyer on where you are living or where your business will be located. Now, hopefully this information was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much for watching.